Rev Bates on the radio.org. And this morning, our Way to a Wonderful Life message is titled, What We Can Do with Faith. What we can do with faith. And I'm going to start with some words from the mystical Ernest Holmes. And this is from his writings from Living the Science of Mind and Spirit. He writes, "It is little wonder that having discovered the inward authority of the divine presence, Jesus, like Moses, called others to follow him, proclaiming a way of life and truth. For the secret was not to be to him alone, but a light unto the feet of every man. It was not to be a power that he alone knew how to use, for he said, He that believeth me, the works that I do shall he do also, and greater works than these shall he do." Jesus laid down the divine gauntlet. To refuse to pick it up would be to stand in darkness when there is light at hand. To stand in darkness when there is light at hand. So we know that was from the mystical Ernest Holmes. So we know that the Mastermind Jesus called us to believe, to have faith, and to find that these are the prerequisites for answered prayer, that we must have faith. We must believe if our prayers are to be answered. Yet the world has given us many things that contradict the principles of faith and belief. Luck and miracles remain in the collective consciousness, and both of these contradict the spiritual principles taught by the Mastermind Jesus and every legitimate spiritual teacher. Spiritual law is scientific and universal. It works the same for everyone, everywhere. And what do I mean by scientific? I mean that it is just as predictable as 2 times 2 equals 4. Gravity is responding all the time. Gravity is a law in the natural, but the law of God is a law in the supernatural. And in that supernatural, we know that it's the spirit in which we believe, the spirit in which we have faith, that gets us that response in the law of God, which is the law of good. So neither luck, nor chance, nor fate, or miracles work for everyone, because what one can do, all can do, and there's no reliance. There's no way we can rely on luck or good fortune. We cannot rely on any of these, for there is no natural or spiritual law to support them. However, we can depend on our faith in that which is universal, always available, and personal to us, and know that this is the law of God. The law of God is a law of faith. Hundreds of thousands of people fill the casinos around the world, hoping that luck or chance or some kind of magic will give them the prosperity and financial security that they desire. People will lose money and blame luck, or they will win money and credit luck for the win. But the law of God is a law of mind. It's a law of mind, and so none can be depended on to prosper us or do anything for us, even God. We have heard or we have read that God can do for us only what God can do through us, and this is an absolute truth. But you may ask, why do some people appear to be luckier than others? Or isn't luck and chance involved in winning the lottery? On the surface, this may appear to be true, but it only appears to be true because we do not have knowledge of the inner workings of the minds of the individuals who have won lotteries or great sums of money in casinos. Consciousness is everything, and thinking otherwise will only lead us to shift responsibility from our own consciousness to something or someone outside of us, and this can create chaos in our lives. There are no miracles to be experienced in life, only natural results of universal law. And would we consider the responsiveness of gravity a miracle, or do we consider it a natural universal law? Miracles are the result of a lack of awareness of the law of the Spirit. What may seemingly be considered a miracle is simply the result of a faith and a belief in the mind of the person experiencing the seeming miracle. Because a belief in luck can bring with it the belief in both good luck and bad luck. No one can deny that this is so. It's true. So many people think about luck, but they think good luck, bad luck. Looking for a miracle can cause us to dismiss the necessity of developing our own consciousness and preparing our mind to accept and receive the good that we desire. Both luck and miracles can also foster fear in our mind because there's no certainty to them. The law of God is a law of certainty. It's a law of absolute. It's an absolute law that it's done unto me as I believe. That's an absolute law. Not done unto me as someone else believes about me, or done unto me as I would like to believe, but it's done unto me as I believe, just as the mastermind Jesus said. Dr. O.C. Smith said, fear is a child of an undeveloped consciousness. Fear is the child of an undeveloped consciousness. And we get that fear from believing that there's something other than God. We separate in our mind that we are not part of this spirit, that we're not a living spirit that's connected with God and having access to all the power, the intelligence, and the Spirit of God. And so when we separate ourselves from God and believe in things like luck, which are a belief of things in the world, or good fortune, or miracles, then we're allowing our mind to also let in that idea that we could have bad luck or bad fortune, or that the miracle won't show up. Now, the mastermind Jesus stated clearly that if we believed as he believed and did what he did, we could do greater things still, greater things than we've ever done before. And he was speaking to the spiritual law that what one can do, all can do, no exceptions. And luck and miracles have nothing to do with it, for God is no respecter of persons, including Lady Luck, Now let's look at some words here from the great Eric Butterworth. He tells us, when Jesus said, be it done for you as you have believed, according to your faith, be it done unto you, actually he was referring to thinking. Faith is another word for thought. Faith is another word for thought. Jesus was saying, according to your thoughts, be it done unto you. The thoughts you think actually are the key to manifesting the conditions of your life. When you think in terms of the possibilities of life, then the door to success is open. If you think in terms of self-pity or injustice, then the door is closed. But you open it or you close it by the way you think. You can think yourself into being unhappy or depressed. You can. We all can. We can all think of all those things where what we wanted what we received fell short of what we wanted. We all have felt that sting of rejection or disappointment when something didn't turn out the way that we were hoping that it would. So let's continue with Eric Butterworth. He tells us you can think yourself into being unhappy or depressed. You can think yourself into being glad. You can think yourself into being well and prosperous, or you can think yourself into being sick and poor. You can actually think yourself into unemployment, or you can think yourself back on to a good salaried position again, doing good work with good compensation, and this is a very important thing. So we know that faith is the key. Faith is the key. Faith is used in different ways and by different people, but we know that the faith that Jesus was talking about was faith in God, keeping our thoughts on God. That's why Jesus said, if our mind be stayed on God. In other words, if we think towards the good, think of the good, think only of the good, then all good things shall be added unto us. But we have to allow that feeling in our mind, that thought in our mind, to be good, to be something wonderful, to be an expansion of the good that we have, or to be an expansion of the good that we want to realize, and reject all those things that come into our mind that do not support that good that we believe, that good that we have faith in, and that good that we want to experience. We just say no to that thought, and change it, reverse it. Think the other thought immediately. Think towards the good, then replace it in your mind. Replace it with the images and likenesses through your imagination of seeing yourself the way you want to be, seeing yourself the way you believe yourself to be, and realize that there's a quality of God in everything good. For God is peace, and God is love, and God is harmony, and God is joy, and God is beauty. God is all these things. Our Creator gave us the ability to think. If we're having issues with money, then we want to bring in the peace within our mind, that we have peace with our financial condition, we have peace with the amount of money that we have, and let that peace materialize into whatever it is that's necessary for us to do, to be, or to act on whatever idea comes to us, or whatever way in which our Creator, the law of God, brings forth into our experience, that way that we can transcend or overcome or move through the financial issue that we're calling us to think about. So let's reject the old stuff, reject the old ideas that somehow we're helpless and hopeless and we're all alone by ourselves to deal with the issues of our life, and realize that God is always available to us, that the law of God, which is the law of love, the law of the Spirit, the law of God intelligence, or the law of God power, is always seeking to work things through our good, through our mind, our heart, and our soul, if we just focus our thoughts on those things and turn to the good in our mind and away from the negative in our mind. Let's go back to Eric Butterworth. This is very clear, and this is very easy for us all to think about and for all of us to understand. You can think yourself into being unhappy or depressed. You can think yourself into being glad. You can think yourself into being well and prosperous, or you can think yourself into being sick and poor. You can actually think yourself into unemployment, or you can think yourself back on to a good salaried position again, doing good work with good compensation. So we start realizing that it's always in our mind, that everything is in our mind, just as we read in the ancient scriptures, as within, so without. As a man thinketh or a woman thinketh, so is she. That no matter where we go, there we are. Why? Because our thoughts are with us, our beliefs are with us, our faith is with us wherever we go. So whatever it is, if we keep having thoughts of poverty, and we keep having thoughts of misery, and we keep having thoughts of self-pity, that even if we win the lottery and we win millions of dollars, we'll lose it. We'll lose it because there's nothing in our consciousness to hold on to it. There's nothing in our consciousness to be able to use it wisely so that we can make use of it in a greater way and to make our life a better life experience in all things that concern us and concern the world in which we live and the people around us that we care about. There's that feeling of not having, that feeling of not having enough faith has disabled so many people in their mind from enjoying life, from enjoying wonderful opportunities, wonderful employment, etc. Let's go back to those words of the mystical Ernest Holmes. He says, "It is little wonder that having discovered the inward authority of the divine presence," this is the Christ within us. That's why we can read in the scripture, "I can do all things through Christ which strengthens me." And what is this Christ? It's the living Spirit of God. It's the very image likeness of God that we were created in, that's inherent within us. And God clothed our spirit in human form and brought us into this life. It's that living Spirit. That living Spirit is that Christ which will strengthen us, because it is our faith that God is, and that God is a part of us, that we are a part of God, that will always strengthen us. So Ernest Holmes writes, "It is little wonder that having discovered the inward authority of the divine presence, Jesus, like Moses, called others to follow him, proclaiming a way of life and truth," a way of life and truth. "For the secret was not to be to him alone, but a light unto the feet of every man. It was not to be a power that he alone knew how to use, for he said, 'He that believes me, the works that I do, he shall do greater works than these shall he do.'" In other words, greater works than we've done before, greater things. So as we allow ourselves to believe that we can do the greater things through our faith, then we will start doing it. We will start doing it. So let's just realize that we become that which we contemplate, that which we choose to accept for ourselves, and let's start thinking about that image that we hold of ourselves. Think about the image likeness of God that we've been created in, the image that God holds in God intelligence for us. How does God see us? God sees us as part of itself, so therefore God must see us as perfect, whole, and complete, capable and able to do all things necessary to take dominion and authority over those things that concern us, and live our life experience with a feeling of joy and happiness and peace and love and confidence and harmony and beauty, just as the things of the Spirit fill our mind and our heart and our soul when we know that we are a part of God. So what is that image, likeness, that we see ourselves in, and how does that compare to that image, likeness that God has of each and every one of us? We must contemplate that and bring that into a greater realization that God so loved us, that God has given us everything necessary to enjoy this thing called life, to always have enough, provides us with every need, provides us with our daily bread. So we know that when our good desires surface in our conscious mind, because at some level of consciousness we believe these things are ours to have and ours to do and ours to be, then we need to keep faith that they are. What we can do is develop the consciousness of having them by thinking about having them, thinking about what it looks like to live with the experience of having them, doing them, being them, and let all that happen. But we must take the time to sit in the silence and feel that reality of having, being, and doing. We must shut out the noise and the nonsense of the world. That's why Jesus said, go into a closet, shut the door to the world, shut the door to the yesterdays, even the things that happened an hour ago, and just still your mind and be present with the presence of God, be present with the power and the intelligence and the Spirit of God, be present and let God move through your mind, your heart, and your soul. Move those ideas through your intuitive mind so that you know that you can be guided and directed to that which is for your highest and greatest good. And let God move through your heart and agree with your mind that the good desires that you seek to experience in your life can be accomplished. Where there's a will, there's a way. That's always the way it is. Dr. Joseph Murphy taught that when you are tense, anxious, jittery, and worried, dwell on this great truth. For God hath not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. When you are tense and anxious, jittery and worried, dwell in your mind on this great truth. For God hath not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. In other words, that if God did not give us the spirit of fear, then we know that the spirit of fear is just an illusion that we've allowed to come into our mind. It's just an illusion that seeks to confuse us about our purpose in life. It's just an illusion that seeks to diminish our belief and our faith that God is always available, that God is always present, closer to us than breathing, nearer than hands and feet. And just as we inhale the air that we breathe and we assume it's available to us, we must know that God, this unseen power and presence and intelligence and spirit, is available to us as well as we draw into our mind through our thoughts and develop that faith that God is. For God hath not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. And as we take these words into the silence of our mind and dwell on them and contemplate what they mean to us personally, then we shall find ourselves keeping faith with ourselves in a greater way, and we realize that our faith in God, our time spent dwelling in the silence, listening, letting God come to us through our mind, our heart, and our soul, through our mind, through our spirit. Incline thy ear and come to me, we read in the ancient scriptures. So we must incline our inner ear and listen for that still small voice. Listen for that idea. Listen for those words that will guide us and direct us, for those thoughts that will lead us into that greater realization that God hath not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. And when we realize that power and that love and that sound mind is already within us, already waiting for us to release our imprisoned splendor and to do those things that are ours to do and be that thing that we desire to do and have that peace and that grace and that ease in our life, knowing that God is always working to our good, all things work to our good, then we shall realize that God definitely has not given us a spirit of fear, that God has definitely given us a spirit of power, a spirit of love, and a spirit of a faith. And realize that you are important and you are necessary, that God has given us this life. God has infinitely individualized its spirit within the living spirit of each and every one of us, that God has placed us, gifted us with this life, placed us on this planet because we are important and we are necessary. We have the opportunity to glorify God, God's love, and the law of God every day that we exist. As we choose to do so, as we choose to align our mind with the law and the love of God and live in the experience of our good desires, knowing that these are God's good desires for us, we shall glorify God in all that we do. But it's up to us to realize that this is so. It's up to us to know that it is so. Let's take this into our mind today, and let's allow ourselves to believe this as the truth for us. Today, let's recognize the abundance of life. Let's animate everything in our experience with this idea by thinking so. Let's remember only the good, accept only the good, expect only the good, and know that this is all we shall experience. Let's give thanks right now, right where we are, that this good is moving to our mind, our heart, and our soul. This good is moving, not just in the ideas and the thoughts that we think about. It's moving through our body of affairs, creating a shift towards the good, a shift towards an expansion of the good that we already have in a great